Please be advised that in order to foster quality discussions in each episode, we will spoil the stories in each game and text we talk about. Good news is, 90% of the titles we cover are old enough that many of you might already know all about them. That said, we do encourage you to play and read before listening.
Listen up now, when you leave on, get ready for Arcade Bookshop. Read your book, and play a game, check it out. Don't be lame, listen up now, when you leave on, get ready for Arcade Bookshop.
Hello, Caleb. It's Bryce. I tried to catch a nice rattata a little while ago, but it got away. I was sure disappointed. Okay, bye.
Okay.
You know, in my review of this game for today, nothing stood out to me more than that. And but then I remembered how many times that happened, and it was like the biggest nuisance of the game. And it reminded me. Honestly, I'm gonna get to it, but reviewing this game, looking back on it, it reminded me a lot of Earthbound, which was bizarre to me.
Just the abruptness of the leaving and the weird messages and stuff.
Yeah, it's like how your dad calls in Earthbound all the time. The graphics are like weirdly. I think they kind of match like Earthbound's advanced. Because I feel like Earthbound looks really nice for Super Nintendo, and I feel like it's where like the Game Boy stuff caught up with Super Nintendo, because I feel like Game Boy looked like crap for a long time, in a way. Also, maybe it's because I didn't actually replay this one for the show, and maybe you guys agree. I recall this game being so much more involved, and like especially story wise, and I know they like take a long time no matter what, but it seems in like watching videos and reading up on it again, it seems like 85% of it is just fucking busy work and grinding and like 15% story.
100%. Yes.
Which is also how I feel about Earthbound. Even though I like the Earthbound story. Yeah.
Just boring going through inventory and grinding and yeah, because in the Pokemon, you're just leveling up your Pokemon. And this game, too, I don't even think you can alternate and try to fight a higher boss. You have to go in an order, don't you?
Yep. And there was a lot of gyms that you couldn't unlock until you got a certain item or something, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
know. I
like
the freedom, man. I like the freedom of just cruising and going to fight whoever I want and get my ass kicked proper.
Yes.
I think to a degree you can, but I don't remember. We're focusing on the stories for these shows, and I just felt like I've played this game at least 3 times for each version of it there is, and I don't feel like I need to replay it again. I don't remember everything, but I know what Pokemon is. Would you all agree?
I actually did a real deep dive into Digimon, and then I realized you were talking about Pokemon, and I had to throw a whole essay away, a bunch of notes. So
are you serious?
Kind of got screwed on that yet? No. I haven't thought about Pokemon in I don't know how many years, but just like going over the reviews of this game and stuff, it looks a lot more fun than like we were saying off air. Emerald is probably more enjoyable because they rewrote it to a degree and they cleaned up a lot of the bugs and they made the story more enjoyable, because in Ruby and Sapphire you have, like, from what I understand, these competing, what is it, Magma and Aqua or something? Like these competing teams that are the bad guys, but they just kind of switch off weird, and it's almost like a copy and paste thing. But if you just play Emerald, they just put them both in, and they're both the bad teams or the bad guys, which probably makes for a more fun play.
Mm-hmm.
But I mainly just went over the Ruby and Sapphire. I never played Emerald when I was growing up, so I didn't even know that existed until you mentioned it. So I'm like, I think I just played the crappier of the 3.
Did you guys ever play the newer ones? Any of them?
No.
None of them?
None of them.
Didn't you say you played, like, I thought you just told me you played, like, not one of the real recent ones, but like one of the slightly newer ones.
I think I picked up the Sun and Moon.
Oh, really?
But that was only for maybe an hour or two, just to kind
of
check the vibe of it. It was same old, but
yeah,
looks pretty.
I mean, I started to replay Emerald. To be fair, everybody, I did start to play it, and then I thought, this is 40, 50, 60 hours I don't have the fucking time for. And so I put it down. But after I looked into all this stuff again, I'm actually interested in playing one of the newer ones for like Switch, because they look pretty awesome. My only opposition is there's got to be like 4,000 Pokemon by now that look like household appliances, and I don't know if I can handle it.
That's a lot to remember.
There's also like they introduced the VMAX and different versions of Pokemon that are. It kind of goes into Digimon territory almost, where you're kind of just doing crazy things to how they look and act, but for no reason really.
So bizarre, but I'm thinking about diving into that bizarrery, as Lovecraft would say. All right. Well, as our bullshit winds down, and our beers are cracked open, and Caleb's water is in a nice stein, welcome to Arcade Bookshop, where we talk about video games and their literary counterparts for all of you who love to play and to read. I'm Bryce Yoli, and as always, I'm here with my pal and cousin-in-law, Caleb James. But today, I'm also here with my oldest friend and the creator of our awesome podcast logo, Riley Moon. Where did this Moon thing come from? Because this is new since you guys got married, and I don't think I ever heard the story.
Well, we had the old discussion of you're getting married, and you got to take his name, you know. It's going to change. And we were always sick of how people could never pronounce my last name right. My old last name, Stensland. Everyone always just throws a weird letter in there. Strensland, Steinsland, something like that. So just wanted to be cool, one syllable, rock star.
How'd you land on Moon?
It literally was just like a draw of a hat. Kira's super into celestial objects, and it sounded awesome to me.
I don't fucking care about my name.
I don't give a single shit. It sounded awesome. Pissed my parents off. It's everything I could ever ask for.
You should have went a little more meta with it and been like Moonblood or something.
Yeah, honestly, I was leaning towards it, but one syllable, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
Signing off for UPS has never been easier.
That's true. So when you picked up the Sun and Moon Pokemon, was it Moon because you love your last name now?
I'm so about it. No, that's the one that my buddy had. He's real about Pokemon, and he's got all the newest ones. He like plays actual cards still.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that's old. That's why I know about the new one and how they have all like the crazy additions and stuff. So,
and just to continue the intro, the game we're talking about today, it's called Pokémon. If any of you have heard of it, more specifically, it's the third generation, consisting of the 3 alternate versions: Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. But going off the trading card thing, did you know? I never heard of this until I was listening to the other podcasts I frequent. There was a Pokemon trading card video game.
what?
I don't know anything about it. I actually just thought of it just because you brought up the cards, but apparently it was pretty popular. I don't know. Did you know about that?
No, that sounds incredibly boring.
I know, but I think it. Excuse me. I think it was actually a popular game. And they actually just added it to Nintendo Online too.
So it's like you had the social interaction of the actual cards, and you got rid of that part and just put it as a video game.
Right.
That makes sense.
A little work from home action.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up and see how incredibly stupid it looks.
Sounds too meta.
While you do that, I'll regale you with a fun story.
Okay.
When I was a young man, because I'm a little older than you two, we had all the Pokemon cards, and we had kind of like a black market trade going on. And I actually got in a gang fight over Pokemon cards. A gang came to my house one day and they wanted to trade cards. Somebody pulled open their trench coat, and I don't know, they had what were the shiny ones. And I was like, I don't know. And while they were distracting me with the cool cards, one of their lackeys robbed me. They snatched my book of Pokemon cards and ran, and I chased them down the street barefoot. And then I beat up the lackey and got my cards back, but I was missing some of the better one. So I think that was also a ruse, as the gang leader apparently got my good cards. And then I just kind of gave up after that. I said, this is stupid. I'm 10. I shouldn't be fighting people in the streets over Pokemon. I stabbed a guy for a Pokemon card.
Jesus Christ. So this was for Game Boy Color. Imagine like the original, like the second generation of of Pokemon games, you know, like Gold and Silver and shit. Imagine that, only nothing moves, and you're talking about that's basically what it is. Only like there's no pretending that you're an actual Pokemon. You're manipulating an actual Pokemon. Yeah. So like here, I'll show you. They just like, instead of having
Oh, what?
you probably can't see it from where I am, but this is like you can't see that.
It's just playing 8-bit cards.
Yeah, like the battling looks the same as in an actual Pokemon game, only instead of like putting a little Pokemon on each side, they put like a picture of a Pokemon on each side.
Even
So
smaller.
we're not even pretending now. You're playing a game. I can't imagine that being exciting
It's a
to do.
big step backwards for Pokemon, it feels like.
Yeah, I can't. But it was popular.
Yeah, but if you are a Pokemon enthusiast, at least the card game, and you actually do tournaments and stuff, is it any different than online chess
Well, yeah,
or
but
online
no.
poker or anything? It's still just
No,
you know,
but I don't. I mean, but for Game Boy Color, I think. I mean, like online chess, as in like, or poker, as in like actually playing with other people.
we're
Because-
just playing with the computer.
Yeah, but I don't know. That gotta be.
Just practice, man.
I guess so.
Doesn't the card game function the same way as the games, like in terms of how attacks happen, I thought?
I'm
I
sure
don't
there's
know.
card game rules though, but
Might be slightly different with turns.
Imagine if
Uh-huh.
you wanted a Pokemon game for Christmas and your mom got you that instead. And you're just like, oh, man. Like you go, you're all excited. You turn it on. You're like, what the wait,
That's
where's
that's your game
Ah.
until your birthday.
where's the avatars? There's nothing. Just the cards.
I want to
And
see.
it costs $65.
Jesus. I want to see how many copies of that were sold. Well, I can't.
Who was playing this game? I'm looking it up now. This looks so stupid.
Doesn't it?
It's- They just play the actual Pokemon games.
That's
Why
what I'm
would you
saying.
play
It's the same thing.
but just uglier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you didn't have friends to play the cards with.
But it's not like the cards look good either. They're
Oh,
stupid
no,
looking.
no.
They're ugly.
Well, anyway, I picked this game for the show today because we had plans to do an episode with my nephew, but he was busy in 15-year-old love this summer. As in teen love, like they're both 15. Not anything else weird or wrong. But
You can stop explaining now.
I thought the third generation of Pokemon would be cool for that because it's more easily accessible for a high school kid, but also retro enough that I could still relate to it without having to talk about one of the newer Pokemon games that he's played already. Unfortunately, he had to bow out for this one, but maybe he'll be back in a later episode of ABS. Regardless, I think, well, we already established, we've all played this game at least once, and I know Riley and I had at least a minute where we were fucking diving into that shit back in high school.
Yeah.
You were involved in that whole thing with like Dylan Edmonds, and we were all playing a version of it and then trading games. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
We'd bring it to school,
Mm-hmm.
and
Kind of catch up.
yeah.
Where you
Did your
at?
school have Pokemon gang fights?
I don't think, not as far as I mean,
We all
Oh,
work.
that's no fun.
We all work together.
we were a gang. We fought our Pokemon.
Oh, that's lame. It has to be real stakes. Like, somebody has to be able to get a
Blood on
black
the
guy
line.
if they lose.
But we hooked those fucking Game Boys up like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it
And-
was. I brought that cord in. I had the E-Link to
Yeah.
trade shit.
You had to if you wanted to catch them all, man.
So Emerald though, you can't. I heard that I was reading and I remembered that Emerald, you can't trade things to the other games. It was only between Ruby and Sapphire you could trade things.
What?
That's what I was
Well,
reading about. I
But
remembered it.
you can connect it though still, right? Like
Yeah, you can still connect, but
to get your Pokédex.
there were certain ones you couldn't transfer.
But did you have to? You could still like fight though, right?
Yeah.
And that way, because doesn't that still like add to your Pokédex?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, we were doing that forever. We all had a different copy of the game. I think we all had at least one copy of each game, and then other people also had the fire red and leaf green, and those two, because those are, I didn't even realize it. They're like technically part of the third generation, like not like in the chronology of the games, but they're part of. They came out at the same time, and they you can trade between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fire red and leaf green were reboots.
Yeah.
Of the red and blue,
Mm-hmm.
yellow, that region, but they were part of it
for Game Boy Advance. Yeah. And we're also reading Animal Farm for our next episode, so I thought the obvious match for a book about communism was Pokemon. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you're imprisoning these poor animals to do your work for you, so yeah, I say it fits.
Yeah, right?
Wasn't there some selective breeding going on in those Pokemon games too?
I would say so.
Sounds about right.
We'll get more into that in the next episode. There is breeding, and not my favorite part of the game. What's your favorite breeding story?
It's a weird way to start a conversation.
What species? I didn't realize in those games there was also like a farm type situation where you could put out like a salt lick kind of thing to lure certain types of Pokemon.
Oh, that sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
Was it just that, or is there other tools?
I believe it was just that, but you could alter the ingredients because apparently certain ingredients brought about certain personality traits in Pokemon, so you could like learn different moves first or last.
That's funny. Bookmark that.
Yep.
Real quick, since we're talking about stories here, I'm just gonna give a brief summary of this Pokemon story. Not that anybody cares that much, but that's the whole point of the show. And I just want to say the story is about a boy or girl who gets stuffed in the back of a moving truck like an animal, and gets released finally once they're at their new home. But also, like every Pokemon game, it's about trying to find all the Pokemon in the world and saving the world in one way or another. The only real plot in this, I think, is in regards to Team Magma and Team Aqua. I think there's like little side plot things, but very more like side quest things that don't matter that much. So like the main story is but with Team Aqua and Team Magma and just trying to like resolve the whole fight there. And I don't remember, maybe you guys know more right now, but I don't remember what the differences are between Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald, since Emerald came out later and kind of brought things together more. But basically, Team Aqua and Team Magma are just Team Magma is out to expand the land for ecological reasons, and Team Aqua is out to expand the sea to make the world more water instead of land. And they're doing this by summoning the legendary Pokemon Groupon or Kroger. Groupon being the ancient god of saving 25 cents on Tide detergent, and Kroger being the great mythological beast of grocery shopping. Right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. And it's Groudon and Kyogre, or however you say it. I know, but that's pretty much it. And then I guess towards the end, that's when, however you say these stupid Pokemon names, Rayquaza, the green one, comes down and just says stop, and then it's over.
Pretty much.
That's all. I don't remember this stuff. Do you have more to add for the synopsis, Caleb?
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
Are these the only two Pokemon? Because I'm not familiar with any of the new ones. Are these the only two legendary Pokemon that like double as a creation myth? because they actually have a mythology, and they fought each other and they both went to sleep, but they both have their own ideologies, which is what clashed. And there's something about like climate change that threatens them too. I didn't really get too deep into that, but like the mythology thing is what interested me. Is like it's a creation myth, and I never heard of other Pokemon having that.
I actually didn't. I would say it's the only one. I actually didn't find that in my research over the last couple of days, but that does make it a lot more interesting. Did you find anything? Did you think anything more about that?
I couldn't find too much on that, sadly, but like I said, I wanted to see if you guys knew if there was any of the newer Pokemon went that route, because that's kind of it gives you it steeps the Pokemon in a cooler world, I think, because you get a little mythology involved versus just, oh, this Pokemon digs and this one has fire and this one has a flaming dick. Like, I don't care about all that all the time. Like sometimes, because like you said at the beginning, it's hard to get too deep into a Pokemon game because it's just like a fun story. But this one, at least, like this generation seemed to take a little bit of a deeper dive into some kind of storytelling, at least compared to the ones before it. Because I don't remember like Blue and Red having much of a like deep story. It's just Ash has to, be a Pokemaster, and like that kind of usually is the story. But this one had a little more to do with nature, and even like the Pokemon that you encounter, the new ones that were created for this, they're all nature based, and even more specifically because I looked up that the creator of this game, he based this world on I think it's Kyushu, Japan, which was, I think when he was a younger guy, I want to say traveled to the island and, like went fishing and did all this stuff. But he got to really appreciate like the nature, and the people were very kind and caring. And that kind of translated to him creating this game that wasn't so intense. And because most of the Pokemon games, they try to have like a real world counterpart, I think. And this one, it was more of an island setting which is why there's so much fucking water. There's endless water traversing, but he kind of goes into like the Pokemon reflect that. That's why when you look at the designs of them, they, like some of them look like a child almost, like a shy kid. There's other ones that look like more tropical animals, and just like they really went to detail on like the island theme and stuff, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I found something about that too, and I guess they continue to model every Pokemon game off of actual regions. Like the first 3 or 4 were based on regions in Japan, and then I think after that, the next one was based on New York City, and then they keep using. I think they're using more Western regions now. But it's not. They're not exclusive to that. But it's always the map is always based on an actual location, and it's interesting what you said about about basing the Pokemon off of the feeling that he got from that region too. Like, it makes me think of that one. I mean, I don't know if this is one of them that he based it on, but the one that's called Ralts or whatever, because it just looks like a little like slouch-shouldered little boy wearing a helmet. But also, I did have some notes about climate change. I didn't know if they actually referenced it in the game, but it's about eco-terrorism, and like,
and
it is. I mean, if you think of, that's what they're doing, and I think the interesting part to me is neither of the groups are fully informed and aware of what they're doing and what they need to do to achieve their goals. And by the end, they still don't know, but they find out they were wrong. Both sides find out they were doing the wrong thing, and then they apologize to each other.
Right.
And I thought it was interesting, as it was like, it wasn't the first. It was the first Pokemon game probably where it wasn't just like a clear like good versus evil thing, like how Team Rocket was just blatantly a bunch of like thieves and jerks out to get money. As far as I remember, maybe there's a little bit more depth there, but I kind of doubt it. And I just think even though this game is always made for kids, I think this is the first one that tried to make some kind of statement. And I'm pretty sure this one came out around the time that they were first. I mean, maybe it was a little bit earlier, but when they were first really starting to talk seriously about global warming.
Yeah, it was very prevalent in just common talk.
I guess the only other thing I had to say about that was that in terms of each side feeling like being so certain about what they're doing, it directly translates to real life. If you think about it, even with if you think about it directly with real life and global warming, there's one side and there's advertisements all the time. They're confident that global warming is a real thing, and they're warning everyone against it, as if like the world's about to fall apart or explode or melt or whatever. And they have all this evidence stacked against it, or stacked up for it. But then there's always the other side who is also certain that that's not a real thing. They have a lot of things to say about it just being like part of a political agenda or just not a real threat. The Earth goes through cycles. It's beyond our human control. And at the end of the day, there are always people like that who are certain of their convictions.
Right.
And someone is always wrong. And sometimes it's both sides. And for as simple as this game is, I think that's a very real world thing that it translates.
Do you think that was reflected in the legendary Pokemon's battle? Because they both had opposing ideologies, and I don't know. I don't remember if either one was right. I'm assuming not.
Well, because that's when Rayquaza came down and kind of was like, y'all need to stop.
Yeah, like I looked at it as almost like a end of times Jesus thing. Like, like he just came. I think in the game he just comes down and shouts, and then they calm down.
Yeah, he's like, set down your egos.
Yeah. So it's very simplistic in that way, but I think yes, I think it is reflected in the battles.
So I think the real question is, what's your favorite Pokemon?
I was gonna ask you earlier, and I forgot. I also forgot to figure out what my favorite Pokemon are, but
it's not something you think about. That's something you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say Alakazam. That's always been my favorite.
But that's like overall. That's like not based solely within this series of Generation 3.
I know. Because I don't even remember a lot of the. I know. Well, no, I always liked Psychic Pokemon, so I think I did use that Ralts one.
Yeah, I remember it had a pretty powerful evolution. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, let's find out.
I was reading this article beforehand where someone was mentioning that the color palette and graphics of these games were a lot brighter and just like more special in certain ways than the other past games, kind of equating it to almost like how Mario Sunshine was to the Mario games. It really just brought like a certain vibrancy to a lot of the color palettes and the way that the Pokemon themselves were a lot more like tropical feeling at times. Because I mean, even do you remember like the starter Pokemon of these games?
Yeah.
They're just like maybe like the last starters that actually kind of looked fun and had like personality actually.
Yeah, they're like they do look fun. They're a little more cartoony than the last two generations. I think I think they all in general look more happy. Like
that's what I mean. It's like they
and that kind of goes into what he was saying earlier about the design, how they were inspired to design this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the graphics are really cool in this. If you're disregarding that there's a future of video games after this period. I remember first playing these and I was like, oh my god, these are fucking awesome. And especially if you had like, do you remember how there was a Game Boy like the one right there, and
the SP?
Yeah, and before that it was just the Game Boy Advance, didn't even have a backlight, and then you got the SP, and you turn games on like this, and it was like, oh my god, it's beautiful. And then a little bit later on, they came out with like DSs and stuff that you could put that were backwards compatible for Game Boy Advance, and if you, I forget which version of it, what it was. I don't know if it was like DSi or something like that. I don't know if it was that one or not, but I eventually had one of those, and the colors were like so much more saturated and like way more vibrant when you played stuff like this. it was like, oh my god, that's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the most like, I don't know, like,
It felt tropical almost.
yeah, like psychedelic in a way. Not really, but like in terms of color.
Well, yeah, you just never had access to that kind of vibrancy in those Game Boy Color games.
Yeah. Man, for being called Game Boy Color, those games are very dull.
Boo.
Yeah. I'd still play them, but yeah. So Ralts evolved into Kirlia,
No, the best was
and then
you mentioned Ratatat,
Gardevoir.
the upgrade to Zigzagoon.
Wait, huh?
Look it up.
Zigzagoon?
He's like one of the first Pokemon that you encounter that the professor is out in the wild and you have to meet him, and he's like, "Help, save me from
Oh, it's
Zigzagoon."
like the third generation version of
Ratatat or whatever."
Rattata.
Yeah, I never knew how to say it. It's too many ATATs.
I don't even know if that's right.
But
Rolling with it.
he's like a little puppy raccoon.
It is very cute. I think it's hilarious though that Caleb's got fucking nothing to say about this game.
Nothing. I told you beforehand. I mean, if you want full transparency, I don't really like Pokemon at all. I liked them when I was a kid briefly. I got in a gang fight. I did play the games and I liked some of the games, but like I said, I didn't actually play Emerald. So Ruby and Sapphire after that was, I think, the end for me. I don't think I played another Pokemon game after that. I didn't watch any of the movies or the stupid show or anything. And I always hated Digimon worse. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I hated the name. Digimon.
Wow.
Don't like it.
Hot take.
I think Riley's a
Hot
Digimon fan.
Just the theme song. Honestly, that was what got me.
I don't even remember the theme song.
Digimon, digital monsters. I don't know.
The theme song was kind of good.
It just got me psyched up as a 10-year-old on Mountain Dew.
Yeah, the second generation was my generation. I think
My generation.
it was the one that I played the most. I originally had Sapphire for this generation. I don't think I ever actually really played it because I think when it came out, I was at that age where you're like, I want to start like doing more serious stuff. It was, I don't know, like at like adolescent age, and I think I started playing it and I was just like, oh, this is fucking annoying. And I was like, well, I always watch my brother play cool stuff, and I think I just put it down. And then in high school, you start to want to do stupid stuff again a little bit. And
15-year-old summer love.
yeah,
Yeah.
you start wanting to do other 15-year-olds.
Whoa.
and you get distracted. But in between the doing, you start playing Pokemon again. I just totally lost my train of thought after all that shit.
Did you know that those Sapphire and Ruby and Emerald were the last Pokemon games that were made solely for Nintendo handhelds? Like after that, they all went to like Switch and other things.
Wait,
At least that's what I read.
the actual third generation?
That's what I remember. Yeah.
Well, it would go to like DS then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but like that was like the last for like the
Oh, it was the last Wait,
last like Game Boy.
okay,
Yeah, like they all went to DS and then now Switch.
yeah.
But it was like that was kind of like the wrap up of a generation. So after that, we kind of fell off on
That's
some of it.
interesting. Did you further know that not only are the three of this generation plus Fire Red and Leaf Green part of something that all goes together, but there's also Pokemon Coliseum for GameCube and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness for GameCube. You can trade between all 7 of these games, and the Pokédex was like enormous in this generation.
What?
And it was like really, really hard to actually complete your Pokédex. I've never have any of you completed your Pokédex?
No, that's one of the reasons I completely dropped off is because it was too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
I didn't even want to do that in the first game. It's just a lot, and you don't, because you get your 6 that you like, and it already takes like 60 hours to beat that fucking game, even just doing that. And then if you want to complete your Pokedex, you just got to spend like 100 hours.
Yeah, even as a 13-year-old, I knew I'm not getting paid for this.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of gaming. To add to the eco-terrorism shit, I love how, or the theme of that anyway, I love how Professor Birch looks like a little chubby hippie compared to like is it Professor Oak, right?
Yeah.
Who actually looks like a doctor of Pokemon.
That is how they say it.
What's your favorite Pokemon, Caleb?
Diglett.
Tell me more about that.
I just watched a meme today, actually, that came up. It was like a TikTok or something. This guy was dressed, he had a Diglett cosplay. He was just a shirtless buff guy wearing a Diglett mask, and he's at a convention, and he just kept saying Diglett, and then they asked him why he dressed like that, and his response was always Diglett, and I like that, so now Diglett's my favorite.
What about you, Riley?
Oh, that's a hard one. I was always a fan of the water type Pokemon starters. They're just real friendly, real fun. Mudkip and Squirtle were always real close to my heart.
Mudkip.
But then they got real cool as you got to evolve them. Just always kicked ass. And honestly, going back to Gen 1, Sandshrew, Sandslash.
Oh, yeah. I always liked that guy. And just, we could end on some stupid details from this video game. Team Magma puts rocket fuel in a volcano.
What does that accomplish?
I don't know. It's part of them trying to resurrect Groudon. I don't know.
Political agenda.
Yeah. Team Aqua steals a submarine.
Didn't that just happen?
I don't know if it
Too
was
soon.
a stolen submarine. And both teams, I believe, steal the wrong orbs that are supposed to control each creature. They both do the wrong thing. Don't we all?
Karma.
If this game doesn't just make you think of everything you're doing wrong in your life, right, Caleb?
I guess. For an island, there's a lot happening there.
Yeah?
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be like a small island, and there's people stealing rocket fuel, which means there's scientists creating rockets, there's submarines, there's a lot going on there.
Wait, hold up. Go back to the submarine part, because the water part of these games was a huge deal, I remember, because everyone was super pissed that whenever you're riding across the entire freaking ocean looking for your orbs and whatnot, every 10 feet you're encountering a Pokemon that you have to battle.
Yeah. I always
And
forget.
they're probably mostly water-based Pokemon, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
All just,
This gets very repetitive.
yeah, the same things that you don't need to catch.
I always forget about random encounters and stuff like this. And that's the thing that'll make me stop playing. And that.
That was whenever they introduced the those like HMs and TM super abilities that you could use. Like they had super repel was a thing that you could use.
Oh yeah.
To get through all that without encountering a lot of wild Pokemons, but
That's one thing Earthbound got right, is if you are powered up enough, you just skip the fights. You don't have to do every random fight.
yeah.
But yeah, talking about Earthbound again. Other than that, I still feel like for being a Pokemon game, it's weirdly somehow it really reminds me of Earthbound.
Well, the colors and just the happy-go-lucky nature of the game kind of goes, they kind of coincide.
Yeah, it lacks the absurdism that Earthbound games seem to really weigh on. But
You don't fight stop signs and piles of garbage.
and unborn fetuses. Or
Spoiler.
This show is all about spoilers.
These games also had I believe this was the first time that you could fight two people at once.
Yeah,
The old trio.
there's a lot of mechanic things that you forget about on this one. It's cool that you can do the double battle thing in this one.
The Emerald version actually incorporated that a lot more.
Yeah.
It's made it, I think even a lot of them were mandatory.
I think there was a gym that was like the hardest part was you had to get through the very end of it with a double battle, and it was like if you hadn't saved before, you were just stuck in a death loop.
Yeah, I remember getting boned by stuff like that. All right, well,
That's three dudes talking about Pokemon.
To be fair, I will be a lot more informative and entertaining for the Animal Farm episode. That's the only reason I even agreed to do Pokemon, is because I wanted to read Animal Farm.
Yeah, that one will be a lot more interesting.
Well, we'll get into some deep shit on that.
Then we could talk about communism and Pokemon.
Woo. All right. Well, animals, man. So stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be discussing what we decided for the purposes of the podcast was Pokemon 3rd Generation's literary counterpart, Animal Farm by George Orwell. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to follow or subscribe, and be sure to check out our Instagram page at Arcade_Bookshop for our playing and reading schedule, so you can play and read along with us and understand what the hell we're talking about. You can also find the schedule in our show notes. If you have any game and book pairing recommendations, please email us at arcadebookshop@gmail.com or message us at arcade_bookshop to let us know your great ideas. Let's not forget Caleb and his life outside of this podcast.
If you want to hear me flapping my gums a lot more than I normally do on here, you can check me out at the DPW Podcast. You can go on Instagram, Facebook, the corpse of Twitter known as X, and YouTube at DPW Podcast. You can also follow my website, calebjamesk.com, where I post sometimes stories in my publication history and the podcast as well.
Riley will be with us again next time for Animal Farm as well, but Riley, can you think of a game or a book you'd like to do if you come back again in the future? You don't have to answer now if you don't want to, but...
Peer pressure. Do it. Answer.
I'd be interested in doing the Archie comics.
I don't want to read any more Archie. I hate it so much. It's
So do
stupid. I think that was one of our better episodes, though. Can't wait to get some
Weirdly.
feedback on that one.
Yeah.
Well, the show was very relevant for young people, so
What about a game?
a game, I don't know.
All right. Think about it. We'll talk about it next time. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. As always, do yourself a favor. Go stick a controller in one hand and your book in the other.